Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to the Black Tribbles for inviting me. And this place is absolutely amazing, Ariel. It's absolutely amazing. And I thought to myself, how appropriate to be in a comic book store about superheroes when we're talking about the FBI. Because when you think about kidnappings and terrorism and organized crime and drug investigations, who comes to the rescue but the FBI? So we're your everyday superheroes. So I want to thank you again for being here today. I hope we're going to be interactive, asking lots of questions. And I'm just really, really excited to be here. Before I introduce my guest, because the FBI does not endorse commercial products, and I don't want to get her in trouble. I do. So I'm going to do a commercial real quick and just let you know that in addition to my podcast, I'm also an author, and I just put out a brand new book called FBI Myths and Misconceptions, a manual for armchair detectives, which is available wherever books are sold, and it tells you all about the FBI. It breaks down 20 cliches and misconceptions. And so I hope if you're interested, you can go out and get the ebook, the paperback, the hardback, and in September, the audiobook. So that's the end of the commercial. Cerena had nothing to do with that. She's not involved in that. But let me introduce her. So with me today is Cerena Coughlin, Special Agent Cerena Coughlin. And Cerena, are you now the applicant coordinator? Is that your title?
I am. So I am both the Special Agent Recruiter and the applicant coordinator. And I also remain in place as the InfraGard coordinator for the Philadelphia chapter.
You're very, very busy.
I'm very busy.
So what all that means is that if you want to become a special agent or an FBI employee and you're in the Philadelphia area, you can't do it without going through Cerena. So she is here today. She's going to hopefully answer any questions that you have about the agent position. But before we get started, I want to just kind of have a conversation a little bit first. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is I saw this article, which I was very excited about. And it actually says, FBI agent applications up sharply along with job satisfaction. And I know last year I had heard that applications were down with the FBI. So what's up?
Well, applications have been dwindling for all law enforcement really since 2006. And that hadn't impacted the FBI because traditionally we've always been an institution that people would flock to no matter what the market is like. And then we started to see an effect around 2012. So this wasn't something that was very recent. It's something that had been going on for a while. And then we went just this past year from less than 12,000 applications for the special agent role to what is projected now. We will have our final figures at the end of September, at the end of our fiscal year, to around 32,000 applications. So that is an amazing increase. And I'm sure there are lots of different theories why that is. Personally, I think it has to do with the new marketing campaign, the way that we are going out and actively recruiting individuals from so many different sectors, from so many different backgrounds, because one of the things I've always said is I don't have an issue with getting people interested in the FBI. It's getting that interest to translate into an application, because they don't think with their background, with their degree, with their professional work experience, with their interests, that they would be a natural to come into the Bureau as an agent. And my response is completely the opposite, that we need this very diverse group of subject matter experts. And the new marketing campaign really is doing a good job allowing people to see themselves in the FBI role through the unexpected agent campaign.
Right. So that's the hashtag.
Yes.
Unexpected agent.
Everything has to have a hashtag now.
Yeah, it certainly does. Well, and that is interesting because I think for most people, when you think about being an FBI agent, you think about somebody who came from maybe a military or law enforcement background, or the other thing is they're accountants and attorneys.
Yes.
Yeah. So since you do the recruiting, can you give us, you don't have to give us any names, but give us some of the different backgrounds of the people that you're seeing their resume that are coming through?
I see everybody from a sports therapist to a bank auditor to a nurse, a lot of teachers. Teachers make fantastic FBI agents. We have these different elements that we look for. They're not really skills. They're more qualities and traits that we call our core competencies. And it's things like strong communication abilities, being flexible and adaptable, strong planning and organizing capabilities. And if you look at all of these different traits, a middle school teacher, boy, they hit every single one of those categories. There are so many different backgrounds that there really isn't anything that I would say I haven't seen. And at this point, I don't even raise an eyebrow anymore.
So what did you do before you became an agent?
I was director of operations for a nonprofit company in California.
Okay. I was a juvenile probation officer. So it was a little bit in the criminal justice, but I was actually a psychology major. And we have a question from Mark.
Terry Ray Anderson was an American history teacher before he became an FBI agent in the Miami case.
Right, and Terry Ray Anderson was one of our service martyrs that was killed in the line of duty during a kidnapping investigation, I don't know, so many years ago, in the 1960s, 1970s. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. So let's see. I think probably we jumped a little ahead of our conversation because there may be people here who really don't even know what a special agent does. So take it away.
So the FBI, the mission of the Bureau is to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution of the United States. And what we need to do to effectively complete our mission is to get information. So if you think of the FBI as a giant customer service organization and the American people as our customers, then the commodity that we deal in is information. And that's primarily an FBI agent's responsibility. So getting information from members of the community, providing information back to them, developing sources within communities that can provide us information on a regular basis. The FBI agent out of the entire Bureau workforce is really the tip of the spear for getting the information that we need to effectively conduct our investigations. And I do just want to touch on that very quickly. So many people only know about the special agent role, but there are 35,000 FBI employees and only 13,000 of us are special agents. People only know about special agents because that's what you see in movies and TV shows where all of those myths and misconceptions come about. And in actuality, we work very much in a team atmosphere and environment, and everyone in the FBI is all working toward that mission. But the agent's primary role really does come down to getting the information that we need to effectively push those investigations along.
Yeah, great. And on this on my podcast, I'm at episode 180. I've been doing it for about 3.5 years. What I do is I interview retired FBI agents, and I do that because it's a lot easier than interviewing current FBI agents. I don't have to go through all the red tape about some of the FBI's biggest cases, and it really gives you an opportunity to look at an investigation from the beginning to the end when somebody is being sentenced, to get an understanding of what the FBI does. We're going to stop for a question, and when I come back, I want to talk about all of the different violations that the FBI handles and just kind of run through some of those for us. But first, I have a question in the back. I'll take this.
Recognizing their own internal Islamophobia against American citizens and American immigrants who are from Muslim backgrounds.
All right. So the question was, does the FBI investigate evaluate or monitor mental institutions. And remember, the FBI is a federal law enforcement agency that has jurisdiction over a defined area of investigation. And monitoring mental institution is not one of those violations. It would be against the law for the FBI to participate in that. So there are many agencies that can handle that, but it would not be a responsibility of the FBI. And you don't want your FBI just doing whatever they want to do. You want them to be working in the confines of their own jurisdiction. And as far as your second question, we have many agents in the FBI. And I say we, even though I'm retired because I'm part of the family, that are Muslims that come from Islamic background. And so I'm not sure if you are speaking about a particular incident, because I'm not aware of any where there is any action or discriminatory procedures that are against the FBI based on any type of disparate treatment. I mean, again, we are actually recruiting. Well, let me ask you that question. Are you recruiting people that may come from different backgrounds and religions and diverse experiences?
Absolutely. That is probably my primary focus right now for the FBI, is to ensure that we become the most diverse organization we possibly can be, because, again, going back to our mission statement, and if you think about our customer base being the American people, how can we effectively service our customers if we don't reflect them? So I tell people all the time, diversity is one of the FBI's institutional core values. It's our newest core value. And that means diversity in all forms. It means subject matter expertise diversity. It also means the more traditional definition of diversity when it comes to hiring. So many organizations, particularly in the private sector, they talk about being diverse companies, but they don't really talk about why that's critical to them. For the FBI, we absolutely have to have a diverse workforce, because we need people from all different backgrounds, from all different cultures within the Bureau to effectively service those customers, the communities that we're going out into. And I tell people all the time, it's a bridge. It's that immediate recognition when you're going out and talking to people of, I understand where you're coming from. We share the same religion. We come from the same country. Our parents came from the same country. I grew up 2 blocks away from here. So we are very much actively recruiting the most diverse possible group of people.
Now, here's a hard question, but and how do you do that?
Part of the way that we do that is through events like this, so that we can get the information out in the most effective way to the most diverse possible group of people, that we're not looking for this movie poster version of a special agent. I guarantee when I walked into this room, nobody pointed at me and said, oh, that's the FBI agent that's going to be speaking today. That's why we need more women to apply for the special agent role. It's why we need more people of color. It's why we need more people from different cultures and backgrounds and understandings, because if we don't, we're cutting ourselves off from this giant pool of expertise and instant rapport that we really need. And so events like this today, through the different marketing campaigns that we're doing, going out and talking to middle schools and high schools at the earliest possible stage, letting people know that their first exposure to the FBI should be one that says, you can join us someday. That it's not going to be the movies and the TV shows that show this 6'2" Caucasian former Marine, and that's the only person who can be an FBI agent. Instead, it should be the 5'3" African-American female Muslim. Why not? So sometimes, because we rely so much as a culture on popular media versions of organizations, I need to be out there actively speaking against that to some extent and saying, no, we want everybody to come into the Bureau, because if we don't, we're not going to be as effective of an organization.
Right. Great answer. And I know for myself, when I was back in Newport News, Virginia as a juvenile probation officer, and I first saw an advertisement saying that the FBI was looking for women and minorities way back then. That was 1982, so I'm really dating myself. I kind of took a second look at that because in my mind, I never, ever thought of pursuing a career in the FBI. I didn't see myself as an FBI agent. And so, you know, I made the call, and the recruiter that I spoke to, Randy Waldrop, I'll never forget him, he really recruited me. He really showed me how my skill sets as a juvenile probation officer really coincided with the skill sets of a special agent. And it wasn't until I had that personal one-on-one connection with Randy that I thought of myself as a possibility of being a special agent. And so you're right, being out and talking to people, having podcasts that, you know, share information about the FBI to the general public are very, very important. And I hope that everyone who is listening to this, either now live or streaming or later on, you know, really thinks, you know, can I be a special agent? And if you meet the qualifications, the answer is yes. So why don't we go over that? What are the qualifications?
So they actually changed this past October. What I always encourage everybody to do is, as they're researching for roles in the FBI, make sure that you're looking at official material. That's all available at our website, fbijobs.gov. That's my sales pitch there. Because we are changing up qualifications on a regular basis, and you want to make sure that you're getting the most up-to-date information. So you need to be between the ages of 23 and 37, but in actuality, I'm going to go into that a little in depth. The average age of someone reporting to Quantico for new agent training, this always surprises people, is 31. So this isn't something that you do directly out of college. That was part of a conversation we were having before the podcast started. So most people are in their late 20s, early 30s, reporting to Quantico. You have to apply generally around the age of 35 because it takes an average of 1 year from the time you apply until you report to Quantico for new agent training, and you need to be at Quantico the day before your 37th birthday. So that's number one. Number two, you need to be a United States citizen. You have to be able to pass a background check that would allow you to have a top secret security clearance. So you need to be able to pass several different elements, including our drug policy. And I do just want to very quickly point out that that also is changing because there are so many states now in our country that are allowing the legal use of marijuana for medicinal and recreational purposes. I want to stress that we are a federal institution, which means that you need to go by federal guidelines, and it is not legal in terms of federal employment. So marijuana usage, and that also includes some CBD usage. So we're going to be posting information about that soon, but it drives a recruiter crazy to see CBD used in everything from shampoos now to nail polish, and knowing that people are putting things into their bodies that could actually keep them from being able to pass their background check. So you have to be able to hold a top secret security clearance, be between the ages of 23 and 37, be a United States citizen. You need to have a minimum of 2 years professional work experience. And we define professional work experience as non-entry level, a position that you needed to hold a degree in order to hold, and generally something that you have risen to a level of responsibility and authority in. You also need to hold a minimum of an undergraduate degree. So what I tell people all the time that we look for in the best agent candidates, it's all about those core competencies that I mentioned earlier. It's leadership, communication, flexibility, adaptability. All of that is available on our website. And the other element that I look for is what subject matter expertise, what is special about you that is going to enhance us as an organization? So a lot of people think that it comes down to training and to skills, and that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes it's what is special about you that is going to make us a more effective organization, and how effectively can you discuss your background in relation to those core competencies?
All right. I have one more question for you, and then we do have a few minutes left, so I want to make sure we get questions from the audience. And that was going back to, what does an FBI agent do? You know.
So on a day-to-day basis, an FBI agent can do everything from swearing out a search warrant to appearing on a podcast. It's really the only law enforcement position within the FBI. So we do have FBI police that are responsible for keeping FBI spaces safe, but in terms of a law enforcement position, agent is it. So the reason that we're called special agents as opposed to just agents is we both have the power of arrest and the power to affect investigations. So otherwise you would just be an agent. So that's really what a special agent does. They are both responsible for investigating a case and for following it to its conclusion, hopefully ending in either prosecution or prevention of something occurring.
All right. And the type of cases, again, we mentioned it earlier, but, you know, organized crime investigations, kidnapping, terrorism.
So in my career, I've worked everything from crimes against children to counterterrorism to cyber, and now I'm the applicant coordinator and recruiter. There are public corruption cases. There are environmental protection cases, crimes against children, child pornography. There are more than, I think at this point, 300 different violations that the FBI is the primary responsible agency for. We're really unique in that. Other federal law enforcement organizations, they have a more distinct and narrow focus. The Bureau really is responsible for so much.
So much. All right. So we do have some time for some questions. I thought I saw. Mm-hmm.
Women also are still the victims of violence, and they are way less likely to report them because they don't want to be retaliated against, whether it be like actual physical violence or being withheld from positions. How does that differ in your organization, and what advice would you give to like women who like are apprehensive about going into like federal institution like the NBA?
All right. You want me to handle that?
If you want to handle the beginning, and I can handle some of it.
Okay. All right. For the FBI, I'm going to take it personal. Mm-hmm. You know, as I was in the FBI for 26 years, and although at the beginning of my career it was a little rough, the first 4 years, I can tell you that the entire time I was an agent, I felt equally respected. I was definitely equally paid because there's no difference in pay. And I did the same job as my fellow agents. I heard this once from a senior female, official in the FBI, and she said, "Don't worry about being one of the guys. Worry about being one of the team." And I can tell you, I was always one of the team. And in many situations, I was hitting up that team. And so as far as the FBI is concerned, you know, I truly believe it is a place of equal opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you asked that question because I think it is one of the reasons that so many women hold off on applying to the FBI because they think that it's going to be a boys' club, and that could not be further from the truth. I had exactly the same experience that you had, although from the very beginning for me, I felt 100% equal in my role. And Jerry and I were talking before the podcast started why she hasn't traditionally focused on talking about women in the FBI. And I think one of the reasons for that is because when you're from the Bureau, you don't think of yourself as a woman in the FBI. You're just an FBI agent. Now, are there differences for women as special agents? Absolutely. And I think the majority of those differences are very positive. So as I was saying, we need to hire a very diverse group of people because they're able to communicate with individuals in a different way. And we have had everything from witnesses to victims to subjects open up to female agents that didn't feel comfortable talking to my male counterparts. So it completely the opposite from feeling restricted as a female agent. If anything, I feel like I'm bringing something that no one else can.
Right.
So we have the highest percentage of female agents in federal law enforcement in the United States. We have held 20% for a number of years. I'm quite pleased to say that along with our application numbers going up this past year, our female application went through the roof. We were hoping for 33%. That's been our target for a number of years. Right now, I think it's around 35%. Excellent. So I'm looking to see a whole new crop of female agents come into the FBI, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, very, very exciting. I'm grinning ear to ear on that one because that has been one of my goals in starting the podcast. You know, I do it really more as being a representative. What's the word? Representing women. Again, I'm not very vocal on what the differences because I don't feel that there are. So I don't ask when I have female agents on the podcast. I don't ask those questions because I feel if I don't ask them to the male agents, I'm not going to ask to the female agents. But I am going to ask it today. And, you know, what if you are a female, a woman in the FBI, and you have kids, or you want to get pregnant, or you want to date? I mean, are there any restrictions?
Not at all. I have 3 children. I'm married to another agent. So we've doubled down on that myth that you can't have a real life and a family life and be an FBI agent. We coach our children's sports. We're very active parents. The Bureau, I've heard this time and time again from brand new agents that the number one surprise they've had since coming into the FBI is what an incredibly family-friendly organization it is. We have a fantastic benefits package. The leave policy is great. I was able to take 6 months maternity leave with my first 2 children. Not quite as long on the last one, but that was because I had cases that I had to get back to. My husband was able to take up to 12 weeks paternity leave. Sorry, I think it's actually 6 weeks paternity, but way more than generally you would get from a private sector position. I think it is very much a place that you can be a mom and be an active mom and still have a fantastic career.
Yeah, and the same for me. You know, during my FBI career, I had 3 children too. So, and my girls were very active in soccer and basketball, and you know, I went to every game. The great thing about the FBI, and I know we're going to be winding down soon, but the great thing about the FBI, it's almost like operating your own small business. You're in charge of what time you go to work, what time you leave work, you know, what type of manpower you need, if you need assistance from other agents, what type of resources you need, if you need special equipment. It's your case, and when you have that case, you're in charge. And so, you know, if your kid has an after-school event, then, you know, you make those adjustments. You come in extra early, or you come in on Saturday. As long as you get your work hours in, nobody is breathing over your, you know, your back, you know, finding out whether or not you're doing your work. You're expected to do your work. You know, you're expected to be a self-starter and a self-motivator, and you get the job done. And there's a culture that nobody wants to be that empty suit, you know, that person that's not pulling their weight. And so you take the extra steps to make sure the work gets done, but you also have that flexibility to make sure that your home life and your family life. And I think that's a great way to kind of cap this, because we do have 2, one retired and one current female agent sitting up here, and we're letting you know it works.
Absolutely. Female agents and moms.
Yeah, it absolutely works. And I don't think it's any different than any other corporate high pressure job, because it is high pressure. We're not trying to say that it's not high pressure, but it's no different than any other corporate high pressure job. And one of the things that gets me is that law school, people in law school, the number of women in law school now is over 50% women. And the same thing for medical school. And so these are what we would call, quote unquote, non-traditional jobs for women, but the numbers are off, you know, just shooting off the scale as far as the number of women. in law enforcement, in regular law enforcement and police, it's about 15% women. And again, in the FBI now, it's over 20. But I say we try to get that up to 50% too. What do you think?
I don't know why not. We have more than 50% in the country, so why wouldn't we have 50% in our agent ranks? So that's my actual target is 50.
Okay. So we just have a few minutes left, so I'd love to address any other questions that we might have. Thank you. Alicia?
So earlier you mentioned that the first 4 years of being in the United States were difficult for you. Are you able to share one of those experiences and how you overcame it?
Well, remember, I came in 1982, and even though that was 10 years after women started in the FBI, it wasn't a lot of women. I was actually the 23rd black female agent in the FBI. And I know that because I have a copy of the EEO stats for the following year when there were 24 and there was another woman that came in after me. And so people just weren't used to women at the time. But the great thing about the FBI as an institution is that those people got used to it, got used to it real quick. And so as people retired or as they, were told, that the women are here and they're here to stay, it just disappeared for me. And I really, really mean it. It had a lot to do too with my own confidence and my abilities and my experiences. And when I became, truly knowledgeable with the investigations I was doing, I did mostly fraud, Ponzi schemes, advanced fee schemes, and business-to-business telemarketing. People were coming to me to ask their questions, and it just was not an issue anymore. And I really, really want to make sure people understand that. I like to be honest because the first 4 years weren't that great, but I stuck it out. And now, I'm the number one fan for the FBI. I'm out there. I've been retired now for over 10 years, and I'm still talking about the FBI. I'm still doing the podcast. I'm still writing books. I'm still going out every day. Before I retired, I was actually the spokesperson for the FBI in Philadelphia, talking to reporters in the media and different people, shaping the perception of the FBI. And you can tell how great the FBI is, and the fact that, 10 years later, I'm still doing that.
I like to say all the time, the phrase, it's not a job, it's a career. For us, it's not a career, it's a calling. And that says more about who you are as an individual, really, than it says about what you do for a living. And I don't think that goes away. So you're going to be an FBI agent until the very, very end, Jerry.
Yeah, I'll always be saying we in the FBI, for the rest of my life. I'll be in my 80s or 90s. I'll be on my deathbed still talking about the FBI. So I think our time is up. Is our time up now? Oh, I got a little bit more time. Okay, great. We have another question.
So, I strongly believe that part of getting people to be more trusting of law enforcement is to have that law enforcement reflect the neighborhoods that they service. But also it can be a bit challenging when things happen within those agencies, officers abusing their power and things like that. That makes people less likely
Right, and
to trust them.
I don't want to cut you off because we don't have a lot of time, so I want to answer your question. I think I have it. Let me know if I don't have it. But I do think in the FBI, I always joke that, when it comes to bad things and bad behavior, that we leave that to the Secret Service. So I said that, not Cerena. But I'm joking. The FBI has a culture. There's one thing that's always said is, don't embarrass the Bureau. And so things like that you're talking about are addressed. You just don't hear about that in the FBI. And so yes, you may hear about it in law enforcement, in general, but I'm telling you in the FBI that's addressed. And one of the reasons it's addressed because more and more women are becoming, assuming positions of leadership. We have many offices that have special agents in charge that are women. And it's just something that's not tolerated. It's a bad reflection on the FBI, and it's not going to be tolerated. Cerena?
Yeah, no, it's cut out very quickly.
Another thing, seeing people get away with slapping. So that's great that you guys say that any bad behavior is addressed and taken care of. Would you also say that the punishment is different in that way? That
I know that every matter that comes up to the FBI is adjudicated. We have our Office of Professional Responsibility, OPR, and they handle every single complaint and allegation. And I would assume that, they're handling it too, and addressing those matters appropriately. You had a question? Mm-hmm.
So something, when I expressed to my family and friends, that it's something that I'm thinking, and something everybody always says, that it's dangerous, it's a dangerous position, whether for a woman or otherwise. So can you talk a little bit about that to the extent that you can?
Well, we do carry weapons, so I can't tell you that it's not dangerous, or else we wouldn't be issued guns. But go ahead, Cerena.
So when I was very young, I knew I wanted to be an FBI agent from the time I was 9. And I was one of the people that fell into the misconception of you need to have a law enforcement background. And I applied to the Los Angeles Police Department. I'm from Southern California. And my father wanted no part of that. So fast forward a few years, I'm in the FBI and I'm working in task force environments, and being a police officer versus being an FBI agent, there really is no comparison. So in terms of personal safety, are you going to be taking more of a risk as an FBI agent than you would, let's say, as a stockbroker? Yes. But in terms of the day-to-day risk that our police officers are finding themselves in, there really is no comparison. So is it going to be a riskier job than some? Yes. Is it going to be as risky as what most people think of as a law enforcement position? Generally, no. But the FBI has many different violations that they work, many different areas that you could find yourself working in. So some, you're going to find that there will be a greater risk than others. It really depends on what violation you're working, what office you're assigned to. So there are a lot of different factors that play into that. What I always tell candidates is if their family has questions and they are uncomfortable with any part of the role, I'm more than happy to talk to them about it. So I've talked to people's spouses, to their parents, and what I can tell them is what my experience has been, as well as what some other people's have been.
All right. And so in closing, I can say that if you're really, really interested in the FBI, listen to my podcast. FBI Retired Case File Review. Again, I have over 180 interviews with retired agents, and they will tell you exactly what the FBI does and who the FBI is. Thank you.